Today, we tested 5 complete streaming amps with 4 pairs of floorstanders. Our task was to get a maximum of 5 sets of the highest quality sounding sets, a streaming amplifier plus floor acoustics. It is rather difficult to get high quality, large scale, full-size sound from shelf acoustics. That is why we chose, in my opinion, the foremost worthy floor acoustics Sonus Faber Lumina V, Klipsch RP8000II, Monitor Audio Silver 507 series and Spendor A7. All streaming amplifiers sounded completely on their own. They received a signal via the internet wire, all were connected through Roon, and all streaming amplifiers worked in exactly the same conditions. With the same power wires, with the same speaker wires. All this audiophile atheism, all this audiophile debauchery, as Mikhail Borzenkov would say, took place in the Stereo Plus salon at Ganibu Dambis 22 in Riga. By the way, the guys from Stereo Plus showed great patience, because imagine how many switches you need to make in order to listen to 5 streaming amplifiers with 4 pairs of acoustics. We multiply 4 by 5 and it turns out 20. Plus, the number of test compositions was also considerable. Many thanks to the guys from the salon for the fact that they treat the selection of components with such diligence, such love, and select components that can be good friends with each other. Although, as testing has shown, even quite expensive components do not always sound together, and one of the goals of this video was to find out which components sound best and which components are best left unconnected. In today's test, in addition to 4 pairs of acoustics, the streaming amplifiers Arcam SA30, Naim Uniti Atom, the Hegel H120 participated, and the streaming amplifier Primare I15 Prisma MKII participated, for which there is already a review on the channel. You can search if you're interested. We also tested how the Cambridge Audio 150 sounds. And we will diligently tell you about all the advantages and disadvantages of the selected components. The 5th place in the comparison was taken by the British amplifier Arcam SA30. The price of this streaming amplifier, at the time of writing the review, is approximately €2,600. On board the Arcam SA30 is a 32-bit 9038 Saber DAC. From the communication, HDMI input, this is absolutely gorgeous, modern TV communication. You can also connect via coaxial or optical, and of course it connects to the network using an internet wire. Arcam supports AirPlay Chromecast streaming. Of the analog inputs, it has 3 analog tulip inputs, plus 2 inputs for connecting an MM or MC phono equalizer. Also 1 pair of acoustic terminals for connecting 1 pair of acoustics. The design, in my opinion, is a little old-fashioned, a little rustic. When listening with a variety of pairs of acoustics, we noticed that the sound of the Arcam has some elevation in the mids and highs. That is, this sound can be fatiguing when listening for a long time. The depth of the stage with most pairs of acoustics is about 2 to 3 meters. Good, clear drawing of musical images. A clear, well-audible and clearly distinguishable texture of a piece of music. You can hear the part of each instrument without straining at all. Arcam divinely, delightfully, viciously, aggressively and energetically plays with the acoustics of the Spendor A7. If you combine Arcam and Spendor A7, you will get such a vicious and aggressive metal, which, in principle, is quite hard to hear. This is a very good couple. Very good sound, Arcam showed with Klipsch. We assessed this sound as a little coldish, neutral and at the same time very plastic. Arcam, for listening to instrumental and electronic music, 8000 clips are ideal. And what is most interesting, the 3rd pair of acoustics that sounds good with the SA30 Arcam is Sonus Faber Lumina V. Lumina V has a very interesting feature. Lumens very carefully smooths out all the harshness of the sound reproduction. That is why the Sonus Faber Lumina was included in the recommendations for absolutely all the streaming amplifiers that we reviewed. The sound from the Sonus Faber is good, smooth, engaging, clear and very solid in the bass range. In metal, the Arcam SA30 showed some simplification in the bass range with the Sonus Faber. Number 4 of our top amplifier from Sweden, Primare I15 Prisma MKII. On Primer, we already have a review on the channel, so if you're interested, you can watch it. The design of this streaming amplifier is minimalistic. There is nothing superfluous in it, and this is part of the ideology of the Primare company. Everything must be balanced. There should be nothing superfluous, and at the same time, everything should be enough. Rear panel connectors for digital integration into your home system. A huge number of optical inputs, just one analog input. You can connect to the internet using an internet wire, you can connect via Wi-Fi. There is also a built-in Bluetooth receiver. One pair of connectors for connecting acoustics. The streaming amplifier supports all popular streaming services, Tidal, Deezer, Qobuz, Internet Radio and so on. Of course, you can use AirPlay or Chromecast. The amplification takes place in Class D and the DAC is on board a Saber 9028 with a sampling frequency of 32,384. The streaming amplifier does not have a headphone output. Also, the Mare cannot boast of having a phono stage for vinyl playback on board. So, if you want to indulge in vinyl, then you will have to buy a phono stage separately, or use the phono stage built into the turntable. According to the timbre balance, I can say that the middle is slightly raised. But, at the same time, it can be noted that the sound is generally neutral. The streaming amplifier has enough bass and power to drive even large, powerful, heavy speaker systems. The depth of the stage, with most speakers, is about 2 to 3 meters. Good drawing, soft, smooth musical images. There is also depth panning. It is interesting that Mare, he did not get along with Klipsch at all. In my opinion, the scene loses its width when working with Klipsch and somehow concentrates in the middle. Also, the Primare does not want to play metal with all the acoustics. In principle, the range is smoothed at the edges, a simplification is heard from above and a simplification of the bass pattern. But, the Primare Prism MKII works great with the acoustics of the audio silver monitor. In our opinion, this is the most wonderful pair in terms of price-quality ratio. Together they cost about €4,450 in retail at the moment. The Primare Prism I15 MKII set and the 7th generation Silver 500 audio monitor sound very clean, neutral, smooth, with a deep good stage, dynamic and even metal. Together they can do it. The guys are a great couple and I would choose her for myself. And also, according to our observations, the Primare and 15 Prism MKII sound very good, neutral with the acoustics of the Sonus Faber Lumina V. Lumina, in general, in principle, showed itself very well with all the streaming amplifiers with which we tested the Sonus Faber. Number 3 of our top is the Cambridge Audio Evo 150 streaming amplifier from Britain, which currently costs €3,000 in retail. The amplifier has one of the most beautiful designs due to its compact layout, due to the beautiful display on the front panel. Gorgeous handle, vintage wood-grain sides. The amplifier absolutely completely covers all the needs of an ordinary household for connections, for communication. You can connect it with both analog inputs and digital inputs. It supports absolutely most of all streaming services, AirPlay, Chromecast and so on. In principle, this amplifier deserved the ACE Awards as the best product of some 20 or 2021 for a reason. In fact, the amplifier is excellent. By the nature of the sound, it is dynamic, it is powerful, it is fast, it draws a deep, informative scene with large images of the musicians. There is some harshness in the mids and some lift in the highs, but this is not a drawback. According to my observations, Most listeners prefer to listen to technique with a raised middle and a raised top. People just like it that way. Definitely Cambridge Audio Evo 150 is a very bad pair for Spendor A7 acoustics. Together, it's just some kind of misunderstanding. The bass is played in jerks, absolutely exaggerated sound. Harsh, uncomfortable. No, well, of course someone might like it. With the Spendor A7 acoustics, the Cambridge Audio has shown quite an interesting character. We described it as meaty, emotional, slightly sloppy. So there is real meat here. Spendor reproduces electronic music very well, aggressively, energetically, powerfully. Cambridge Audio definitely has enough power and pressure to work even with large acoustics. But my colleagues and I, with Dennis, Gleb and Konstantin from Stereo Plus, rated this sound as not very good. Definitely, a very good sound, Cambridge Audio showed with acoustics Faber Lumina V, because Sonus Faber Lumina V, as I already said, perfectly levels out the raised middle and raised up streaming amplifiers. Well, either just amplifiers and the sound turns out to be beautifully rich, smooth, soft, plastic. This amp sounds good with metal, but it's not the damn audiophile when listening to instrumental music. But at the same time, again, it's not bad, but at the same time it's not good enough to be in the first place. By the way, I forgot to tell you that the amplification is Class D. Perhaps many will not agree with our assessment, but in any case, our most basic recommendation, when choosing components for your home audio system, always choose with your ears. Always try to listen to what you choose. The second place in our top was taken by the Norwegian streaming amplifier Hegel H120, which now costs about €2,700 in retail. The design of this amplifier, in my opinion, is a little simple. He received a whole bunch of awards for his design. But you know what he reminds me of? It reminds me of the oven that I have at home. With this knob on the left, you select the program. With the knob on the right you set the temperature and start frying. And in the center, a display that shows you the progress of the process. This streaming amplifier does not have HDMI. In general, all communication on the back wall is absolutely minimal. This is one of the most minimalistic devices in terms of communication. It doesn't have HDMI, but it does have a balanced input. It has only 2 analog inputs. No phono equalizer, no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi. You can only connect it to the internet with an internet wire. It supports AirPlay. It supports Chromecast. It supports the most popular streaming services Tidal, Deezer and so on. In general, what is the very minimum, and of course you can connect one pair of acoustics to it. Also, on the rear panel there is one input for connecting to a computer. Hooray, it can be connected to a computer via a USB-A cable. There is an AK4490 DAC and an 8B class amplification on board. That is, this is not some kind of digital D class, this is a classic of the 8B genre. How sweet that sounds. In the tonal balance of the H120 Hegel, we noticed an emphasis on the middle. It varies from light to strong depending on the acoustics you choose. The sound can be described as plastic, dynamic. The amplifier has enough pressure, enough power to work with large acoustics. The sound texture is one of the best we've ever compared. The amplifier clearly draws a very wide stage, which literally parted behind the speakers. Separation in depth, everything is present. All right. In musical genre, it is definitely great for instrumental music, great for electronic music. As the volume increases, the H120 Hegel begins to smooth out the heavy metal texture. If you love metal, this is definitely not a very good pair for the 7th generation Monitor Audio Silver 500 and definitely not a very good pair for connecting to Klipsch 8000 acoustics, because the sound is harsh and uncomfortable. But, the Hegel H120 just sounds divine with the Spendor A7. I would say that this sound is one of the best we have tested today. It is plastic, it is deep, it is filled with detail. This sound can be called almost high-end. The drawing of the images is very clear, distinct, realistic. If we are talking about the piano, then you literally see this piano, which is located to the right and in front of you. If we are talking about vocals, then you literally feel the musician's chest vibrate. This is a great pair with a 7 Spendor. Guys, the sound character of Hegel H120 with Spendor A7 acoustics is velvety with a fundamental assertive bass, plastic, dynamic. This sound is easy to listen to. The amplifier, despite being Class AB compared to other streaming amplifiers that were Class D, definitely has enough power, dynamics to work with large floor acoustics. And of course, traditionally, the Hegel H120 worked very well with the Sonus Faber Lumina V acoustics. Here, the Faber Sonus is the perfect acoustic for any streaming amplifier. Whatever you connect the Sonus Faber Lumina to, it will sound good with everyone. It's just a phenomenon. If only all acoustics were like this. The first place in our test was taken by the British Naim Uniti Atom amplifier, which currently costs about €3,000 in retail. The streaming amplifier is not new. In my opinion, it was released 2 or 3 years ago, but nevertheless, this does not negate the fact that, despite high competition, it managed to reproduce music with floor acoustics in the highest quality compared to all other streaming amplifiers. His design is truly fantastic. This is one of the most beautiful streaming amps I have ever seen. The front panel is glossy, acrylic or non-acrylic. I don't really know what it's made of. With a beautiful display displaying information. Side panels with ribs that remove heat from power amplifiers. On top is an elegant twist that is highlighted. Well, it's just some space. In terms of connectivity, Naim Uniti is a true minimalist. It has only one analog input, which is generally the minimum that can be obtained, but at the same time it has a full-fledged output to the pre-out. That is, you can connect a power amplifier or a full-fledged subwoofer. The higher has an HDMI input. You can connect it to the grid using an internet wire or via Wi-Fi. Interestingly, the HDMI wire plug and the network plug have such a tendency to kind of hang out when you connect the wire to them, and this is not a marriage. At first I thought it was marriage, but this was done so that the connection of wires was decoupled from the whole circuit, from the case. Well, I don't know, in short, some technical, engineering perversions. Hiring Uniti Atom does not have full-fledged clips for connecting acoustics. Here you can connect only bananas. But interestingly, nothing sticks out 3 cm on the rear panel, and you can really compactly place this streaming amplifier in your interior. Yes, he has a DAC drill brown on board, which supports discrediting up to 24/190 seconds. These are not the highest figures compared to competitors, but as the audition shows, this is quite enough to take first place. The front panel also has a headphone jack. So, if you suddenly get tired of listening to acoustics, you can listen to this amp with headphones. As for streaming, Tidal, Deezer, Spotify, Cobus, and so on, of course, AirPlay, of course, Chromecast. In short, the streaming amplifier covers all the needs for streaming. Gain on board Class 8B. Those sweet 8Bs again, and this streaming amp has the lowest power of all the candidates we compared today. Hence the conclusion, power in watts is not always a quality criterion. Here the power, in my opinion, is 240 watts. And despite the fact that the power is very small, this small atom works great even with large floorstanders. In principle, with all the speakers that we listen to today, Sonus Faber Lumina V, Klipsch 8000, 7th generation silver 500 audio monitor, Spendor A7. With all acoustic systems hired Uniti Atom, showed the highest sound quality compared to competitors. If other streaming amplifiers sound with one, do not sound with the second, they sound better with someone, they sound worse with someone, then the Naim Uniti Atom sounds absolutely great with all pairs of speakers. Just as the Lumina has shown a high degree of versatility, it has worked well with all streaming amplifiers, despite their strengths and weaknesses. Sound-wise, this amp really blew me away. This sound is the smoothest of any streaming amp we've heard today. It is smooth, clear, clean, it perfectly works out the vocal range, it has the most distinct texture. The streaming amp has the highest detail of any streaming amp I've listened to. It has the best stage, because the sound you hear and see is completely decoupled from the speakers and dissolves outside the system, outside the room in which you listen to music. This sound is emotional, pure, clear, precise. This is how an audiophile sound should be. With this kit, you can safely fall into audiophilia, but certainly not the highest. Well, let's just say, entry-level audiophilia. It is interesting that this kid, even with metal, even with a heavy metal, shows himself absolutely well. Even when listening to charge meter at high volume, it does not smooth out or simplify the structure and shows all the evil of the metal that is there. At the same time, it is plastic, delicate, natural, and when playing instrumental music and listening to vocal compositions, you can directly hear how the voice is born inside the performer's chest and breaks out, pours out. These are already signs of a truly high-end, I'm not afraid of this word, device. This is truly the best streaming amp you can get right now. In order to get the best sound quality from this player, you need to connect it to the acoustics of the Spendor A7. True, this turns out to be the most expensive pair of the considered systems, $3,000 for Uniti Atom and $4,200 at the moment in retail is Spendor A7, that is, $7,200. This is a little higher than the limits that I stated in the video, that is, full hi-fi for €5,000. You'll get the maximum out of this rental for $7,200. But even if you connect a rental to a monitor audio silver for $2,550, the sound from the monitor audio silver is also simply amazing. Guys, in my opinion, Silver and Naim Uniti Atom is one of the most inexpensive and successful couples as well. Well, I'll come to the conclusion. Once again I want to thank the guys from Stereo Plus, Dennis and Gleb, for this long, tiring, but at the same time interesting and productive listening. Fifth place was taken by the Arcam SA30 amplifier with Klipsch 8000 acoustics, also Arcam, worked perfectly with Sonus Faber acoustics. In fourth place we have the Primare I15 MKII Prisma and Monitor Audio Silver 500 7th generation. By the way, this is the best price-quality ratio, the best sound, because together they cost only $4,550. Or, instead of an audio monitor, you can connect a Sonus Faber Lumina V. Number 3 went to Cambridge Audio Evo 150 with Sonus Faber Lumina V acoustics. Hegel took second place, 120 plus acoustics Spendor A7, well, or again, you can connect Sonus Faber Lumina V series to Hegel. The first place was taken by the Naim Uniti Atom amplifier and Spendor A7 acoustics, well, either with Monitor Audio Silver 500 acoustics of the 7th generation. Interestingly, 3 streaming amps were Class D, no not 3, 2, Arcam was Class G, Cambridge Audio was Class D, and Hegel we had Class AB. Higher we had Class AB and Prisma we had Class D. So, Class AB amplifiers took second and first place, that is, they sound to our ears the most exciting, the most comfortable, the most musical, plastic, dynamic, and detailed. At the moment, apparently Class D is already good, but not good enough to give really high quality sound together with the rest of the components of the streaming amplifier. It is interesting that the acoustics of Sonus Faber Lumina V proved to be very neutral and solid with absolutely all streaming amplifiers. You can safely connect the 5th Lumina to any amplifier and it will sound good because it has the ability to smooth out sharp parts of the components. In conclusion, I want to tell you that we did a great job here today and are still writing, and you know, my friend, we want beer. Right below the video there is a button, thank you, click thank you, and we will spend all the donations received on beer. That's all, buddy. See you again.